The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in this podcast belong solely to those expressing them and do not necessarily reflect the OSIP Foundation Incorporated or any other group or individual. This podcast may contain dialogue or subject material that could be considered for mature audiences only. All aspects of how you play the game and the OSIP Foundation Incorporated are protected by copyright and other state and federal intellectual property laws. Unauthorized use without the express written consent of the OSIP Foundation Incorporated is strictly prohibited. If you're interested in sponsoring How You Play the Game, please email us at podcast@osipfoundation.org. Your sponsorship may be tax deductible. Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of How You Play the Game, the official podcast of the OSIP Foundation Incorporated. Yours truly, Jack Furlong, with you as we talk about what's going on as far as the world of sportsmanship is concerned. This is the first episode of the month of February. The year is 2026. Glad you can be with us. As always, check us out online at osipfoundation.org. You can contact the show via email using the address podcast@osipfoundation.org. And on the socials, we're at facebook.com/osipfoundation, X and Instagram at osipfoundation, hashtag #HowYouPlayTheGame. For today's episode, today's little chat, I want to give some disclaimers. I am recording this on the Thursday prior to the Sunday in which this episode is to be released. So if any breaking news occurs between when I am recording this and when it is released, obviously I will not be covering it because, contrary to popular belief, I cannot see the future. I'd like to believe that I can, and that's a complete lie. I can't do it. It's impossible. In addition to that, since I was going to draw some comparisons in some political nature, I wanted to make sure that I once again emphasize that in no way do any opinions reflect OSIP, myself, etc. This is all just for the sake of discussion. This is all for the sake of observation. This is not meant to endorse anything one way or the other. And the goal here is to have a legitimate conversation and observation and discussion of issues, and we welcome the polite, respectful civil discourse that is not meant to be demeaning, meant to be enlightening and fulfilling and encouraging. So I just want to make sure that all of that is out there before we look at anything here specifically. And I highly encourage you, if you are listening to this, to make sure that you kind of check yourself in a way that says, like, all right, I'm cool with that. I understand that, because sometimes we have the preconceived notions that we think we might be, and then we end up not being that way. We get offended when we hear someone go down a particular avenue, or we immediately turn on our defenses when someone goes down a particular avenue in discussion. And I'm really begging you, as you hear this, to try and put your defenses down and put things aside in order to try and understand what I'm saying and why I'm saying it. I wanted to draw a comparison, essentially, between sportsmanship, topics in sportsmanship, and the civil unrest that is going on in Minneapolis at the moment. I think it's safe to say that one thing where everybody can agree, regardless of political affiliation or lack thereof, is that as of the time of me recording this, 2 people lost their lives, and no one wants that. I don't think that I don't think that anyone on either side asked for this to happen. We mourn that, and we classify it as a tragedy. It really should not have happened, and that's not meant to be an endorsement one way or the other of being for or against anything. We just the loss of life is a shame, and it's disappointing, and we just wish that didn't happen. Period. End of story. All right. That being said, I've been thinking about the situation and trying to overlay some of the tenets of sportsmanship in order to try and better understand what is happening. And the best thing that I can do is use the following analogy. Imagine for a moment that you were coaching your kid's Little League game. And if you don't have kids, imagine you have kids. And then imagine that they play Little League baseball or softball or whatever, and you're coaching the team, all right? And imagine that an umpire makes a call, and you do not agree with that call. And imagine your reaction as being heated. What do you think is going to happen if you come storming out of the dugout, flailing your arms, yelling, screaming, being demonstrative? The odds are you are going to be met with defenses and or an equal amount of offense coming right back at you. Okay? The chances of a legitimate discussion have diminished. Imagine in that same scenario that you came out of the dugout holding a metal baseball bat. Let's just say you had it. You were holding it. And in your anger, you came out and you're holding that bat. What do you think the umpire is going to think if you come out with that bat? I'm going to guess, as someone who has been in that situation as an umpire, that you're going to be on guard as the umpire. Your defenses are going to be up, and you're going to immediately look to either escape, stop the situation. It's not going to be a situation where you as an umpire can be vulnerable. At no point is it in your human nature as the umpire there. This is not you, this is the umpire. Just, to say, you're like, you know what, you're 100% right. I completely screwed up. Let me stop this and reverse it. God, I'm sorry. Okay. Like it's not going to happen. Okay. We have to think about the natural human reactions here, not just what we wish would happen in a perfect world. And to me, this analogy kind of explains why things are going down the way that they are in Minneapolis. If there is an authority figure who is doing something, whether that's making a call in a Little League game or something else, as we can all see on the news, and you don't agree with it, actions that are aggressive in response to that are going to be met with less than stellar responses. We talk about it in officiating all the time, and I'm using baseball because that's what I know, and that's where probably you have that deeply rooted Americana where you're supposed to hate the umpire, So if I can continue that analogy, when I do clinics with teams and whatnot, and coaches and whomever, and I talk about the official's point of view, and I say, when an umpire makes an incorrect call or a call that might be considered bad, who's the first person to know? And everyone's silent. They don't know. And I say, guess what? It's the umpire. When I make a bad call, I kind of know it before I even finish making the call. So you don't need to be demonstrative in order to get me to realize, I might have screwed up. I might have kicked one here. There are other ways of expressing your opinion to make your point in a way that will get the response that you want. I talk about it all the time. If I'm behind the plate and there's a borderline pitch off the outside corner and I call it a ball and the catcher holds his mitt there for an extra second, that sends a message to me that his opinion is, I think that might have had the corner. And then I'll think, all right, let me take a better look at it next time. Similarly, a catcher might just turn around or, kind of turn his head and say, did you have that outside? And I might say, I had it a little outside, but if you're thinking I might have had the corner, I'll take a better look at it. And then the catcher will probably say, all good, Blue, or call me Jack, whatever. It's all good, man. I got you. All of a sudden, look at the bond that we have created. We have an understanding. We've made progress. And we did it without the defenses coming out, without aggression. The point was made. It was heard. And maybe, just maybe, the authority figure will adapt. That's not what we're seeing in Minneapolis. Okay? And I'm trying to keep the politics out of this. I'm trying instead to look at the psychology of what human beings are doing. If you don't like what's happening, there is an appropriate way to respond. And I'm sorry to say, I'm not sure that what is going on with the civil unrest in Minneapolis is the answer. And I also don't think that it is appropriate for people to use their platforms on social media to do things like say, I'm a nurse and I'm going to poison an ICE member if he or she comes into my hospital. There are appropriate ways to show dissent. And what we're seeing here is not that. What we're seeing here is a mirror image of what is wrong in sports and in competition when there's a disagreement. This is I'd say the word microcosm, but it's on a pretty big scale. This is a mirror image. Okay? As a society, as a human race, we have gotten to a point where this is what's considered normal. And I hate to break it to you, it's not. It's not. It's very unfortunate. Okay? If you are upset with what is happening, there are appropriate ways to do it. There are appropriate ways to express it. And unfortunately, what I think is happening in the streets of Minneapolis is not appropriate based on the tenets of sportsmanship. Again, I'm not trying to make this a political statement here, okay? I'd like to hear from both sides and understand the opinions of what people are thinking and feeling. But if we lay the lens of sportsmanship and competition over top of this, you begin to see similarities that are the mirror image of what we have to fight in OSIP. So when I see these things, I cringe, not because of the politics, but because humans don't understand that maybe, just maybe, approaching an authority figure while holding a firearm might not be the best idea. If a coach isn't going to come out and argue with me holding a metal baseball bat because I might think as the official that coach is going to swing it at me, then I can understand, whether I agree with it or not, what has happened in Minneapolis. Again, I can't express this enough. This is not meant to be a political statement. This is meant to be an examination of the psychology of human behavior under the guise of sportsmanship, and taking what we have learned from our experiences here in competition, looking at this situation and saying, maybe, just maybe, there's a better way to do this. If you wouldn't throw a temper tantrum at a Little League baseball game over something you don't like, then why would you riot in the streets the way that they're doing? You are more than entitled to your opinion regarding what is happening with, that is causing all of this, okay, in the political world. The removal of people who are not here legally. But I do want people to understand that the psychology of what is happening here is outrageous. And you can dissent and you can have different opinions without this kind of stuff happening. And I would hope that the people who hear this would say, geez, maybe that's the message here. Maybe that's what I can spread. The next time I'm going to post something online about how upset I am about this, maybe I need to consider that first. I would challenge you to do that. If you are that incensed by this, I would challenge you to reframe it appropriately. That's all for this episode today. I thank you for joining me. As always, you can check us out online at osipfoundation.org. Contact the show using the email address podcast@osipfoundation.org. On the socials at facebook.com/osipfoundation, X and Instagram at osipfoundation, hashtag how you play the game. We'll talk to everybody in just a few short weeks. And until then, treat each other with respect. How You Play the Game is a production of the OSIP Foundation, Incorporated. The producer-engineer of this episode is Sean Ryan. Music by SoundSpring Studio. The executive producer of How You Play the Game is Jack Furlong. For more information, visit osipfoundation.org.